Welcome to No Small Roles. This is the show where I speak with fellow actors about their careers and about some of their smaller roles in big movies and how these roles were, in fact, not at all small for the actors who played them. Today's guest is the one and only Matt Letscher, who is not only an accomplished actor, but he's an accomplished playwright. And he has one of the most admirable careers that I've seen out there. Everyone wants this guy's career. But anyway, he is, the most importantly, a father of 2 boys and has been married for nearly 27 years, like myself. And he is kind and he is humble and a downright good human being. Matt, thank you for joining me.
Bravo,
Woo!
bravo. Thank you. I feel so. Oh, look, someone else wants to join me. My dog is here.
Oh, come on in, dog. Mine's asleep in the corner.
All right, I'm gonna just sedate her really quickly.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that intro. I appreciate it. It's
all real.
Well, yeah, admirable. I'm not sure about admirable. You know, I mean,
you have a dream career.
It's pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. It's been sort of exactly what I wanted it to be. But you know, I did do Prehysteria 3.
That's actually in my, so I like to tell people, now everybody, you know Matt from a whole lot of things, and the list is so long, I'm only going to read like just a few, but this is still going to seem long. So you know Matt from, most importantly, Saved by the Bell, the college years, Gettysburg, The Larry Sanders Show, Ellen, Prehysteria 3, The Mask of Zorro, NYPD Blue, Gods and Generals, Identity, Joey, The West Wing, Entourage, Brothers and Sisters, The Good Wife, Pound Puppies, Her, The Carrie Diaries, Boardwalk Empire, 13 Hours, The Alienist, Narcos Mexico, The Flash, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, Suits LA, and most importantly, Shattered Ice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Though they don't know you from that yet. But
they will. They
will.
Yeah, and you as well.
Now, I have to ask you, this is a very important question. I like to put it first.
Okay.
Because I like to, well, I guess it breaks the ice. It's a bit emotional. But what do you prefer? Grilled cheese with or without tomato?
Oh, without. There's some. I like I don't like tomato on. I like cold tomato. I don't like warm tomato, unless you're gonna make a sauce,
like a tomato sauce.
Yeah, you know, like a dish, like a pasta thing. Then I can go, or a pizza or something like that. But if you've got a tomato piece that gets warm, it triggers something in me. I'm not quite sure what, but
so people in craft service take note of that.
Oh yeah, no, it's in my contract. It's a right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Along with the bowl of M&Ms.
Exactly. Yeah.
Green so only. You're okay with like dunking it into like tomato soup or something like that?
Love it. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There's something about warm chunks of tomato that bother me.
Wow, you just said my wife's least favorite word, chunks. I hope she doesn't hear that, or she's
all right,
because then we'll see them. Okay, that's a fair answer. Now, next, I have to ask you. You clearly are a smart guy. You went to college. You're from Michigan. Why are you an actor?
That's a great question. I mean, I started acting in high school because I ran out of other things to do with my extracurricular time, and I started getting in a little trouble. I've told this story before, but my parents basically said, look, find something to do with your time or we will. And I had a friend who was doing the play, who had been involved, and I have no idea. I was a very introverted kid. I was very shy. I was not like a,
me too.
You know, I wasn't out front all the time with the smile and the tap dance. And I don't know what possessed me. I mean, and the play in high school was this Woody Allen play called Don't Drink the Water. I don't know if you know that play, but it's about a family that's traveling overseas and they get in some trouble and they have to go to the embassy. And it's just a wacky Woody Allen play.
Okay.
But it's a, you know, the role I'm auditioning for is like a 50-year-old Jewish man.
I could see that.
in Paraguay or something like that
Yeah.
when I was 18.
Yeah.
So like, why did I think this was the right thing for me to try? I have no idea.
Were you scared of this? Were you nervous? Like, wow, I'm going to try this. Or you're like, this is what I should be doing.
I must have been nervous, but then I had this thing happen. I don't know if you had anything like this, but I'll never forget it. I remember I remember everything about the audition.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the drama director and her assistant being out in the theater in the seats and going up on the stage to audition. And I started doing it and I heard them laugh. And almost instantly I had this feeling
it's a drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Big time. Almost instantly I had this feeling of, I know how to do this. I know what I'm supposed to be doing up here. I know how to I don't know how, it just was one of those things where it all kind of dropped in. And
oh, wow.
And when I was done, I remember walking out and knowing that I had done well, but also knowing like intuitively, I understood something about what was happening up there. And I mean, it took me a while to really commit to it, but from that moment, I don't think I ever really looked back.
So essentially it came out of nowhere, but it was there. And you just kind of open it up like, hey, there you are.
Yeah, I must have had something like that running through my brain. I don't know. I just one of those things where like once I was there, I felt like I was at home, and I just sort of kept going.
Were you into plays and movies before this?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I was into sort of general pop culture stuff, Star Wars, whatever, but I never thought about acting. I remember like when I was younger, I would do impressions of people for my family and they thought I was funny.
Yeah.
but that doesn't tell you anything. So I think really what it was more than anything was I was at a time in my life where I was struggling and I needed some way to express myself. And that's what was there for me with theater.
And you were acting out like that kind of struggling, or just
a little bit of that, a little bit of just, depression and not really having any kind of focus, or any sense of self, I guess, at that point, which is where we all are, when we're at the point in our lives, we're trying to figure out who we are. And I needed some way to express my frustrations, my anxieties, whatever it was, without actually admitting that they were mine. You can attach a character to that or a situation and you're like, well, I'm not really angry or upset or sad. It's the play that's telling me to do that. So don't worry, I'm fine.
So
when in reality, I think there was a therapeutic element to it. I really do.
And was there an element of kind of hiding in a character, or were you like, oh no, this is just kind of letting me out? Or you're like, oh,
I think it was more the second there. I think it was more letting me out. It was an avenue to express what I was feeling without the repercussions of owning it, and whatever that might mean to the older people around,
Yeah. Well, I think you are the oldest. No offense.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, between us, you're considerably older.
I can't be considerably older. There's no way.
We're right in the same zone.
We must be. Okay.
We are. And you shaved the beard, so I look older now.
You're younger at heart. I'll give you that.
Thank you. And less mature as well. Yeah. I'll admit it.
It all plays in your favor as you age. You want all those things.
Okay. I'll take your word for that.
You're doing well.
So after this, before I jump that way, I want to tease this little segment that we have coming up called, hold on a second. It's called The Kiss and Tell. Now, Matt, can you tell us in one word what your kiss and tell coming up later will be about?
One word. Mangold.
Okay. Not mangold. Mangold.
Mangold, as in James Mangold.
All right.
The director.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. I know who that is. Okay. Yeah. He's pretty great.
Yeah.
So how do you go? Okay. So from school, high school, you're like, oh, I think theater is my thing and acting. How do you go to the stage? You go to college, you study it. It seems like you went on to be quite accomplished on stage. And then Uta Hagen. Tell me, please, how did this?
Well, Uta Hagen is the thing, that sort of really catapulted me into a whole different understanding of what the craft could be, and what the work itself could be. And
Yeah.
I had this amazing high school drama director. Her name was Mary Martin. Actually, she wasn't the Mary Martin, but she
wasn't that Peter Pan?
Yeah, exactly. And she she was just so encouraging and accepting, and I think she recognized that I had something going on in this realm. And so the summer after my freshman year in college, I went to the University of Michigan, but I didn't have any real focus. I did a couple of musicals, student produced stuff. I wasn't really thinking I was going to make it a career. Uta Hagen used to do these regional tours where she would stop in a city for 2 weeks. And so there was like a Midwest stop, and you would audition in Chicago and Detroit and Bloomington, Indiana. And out of all these auditions, they would choose 20 people to work with Uta Hagen for 2 weeks. Okay. And so that's what ended up happening with me. And my drama director directed me towards this. And somehow I got in. I was 18 years old. I was by far the youngest in this group.
Did you know who she was?
No clue. She said the name. I thought she had, choked on something. It was, I had no clue who this woman was. I did not know she was one of the preeminent acting teachers in American theater.
She trained Robert De Niro, Gene Wilder, Gene Hackman.
And she's incredible. And she's everything you would want in that kind of, she would carry her little dogs around and smoke her cigarettes in class. And she held nothing back. And she would not suffer any kind of, she would not suffer either laziness or any kind of untruth from the actor. She was so based in seamless acting. You were there to tell the story, and you were there to tell it as honestly and as vividly as possible. And so the first thing I went in there with was this monologue. She tore me to shreds in front of the whole place. Like,
this is the audition?
This is after I was in. I got in. I was one of 20 people there, and I did a monologue. I don't even remember what it was now. Tore me apart. Then I ended up doing a scene from The Glass Menagerie with another woman in the class. Tore me apart again.
Did that terrify you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just like, what am I doing wrong? Everybody tells me I'm a really good actor, and this Uta Hagen lady doesn't like it. So then I went back and I did this. She has these things called object exercises. And I just did one of those, which was one side of a phone call. So they're just there to sort of try and get you to commit to given circumstances and situation without being worried about carrying a character or a play or something like that. So I just created a phone conversation. It was mostly improv with a friend of mine. And I brought in like every piece of furniture from my bedroom, like the lamps, like my toothbrush, everything. Like I recreated my bedroom on stage, which is what her students are kind of famous for. And I just really committed to being in this place at this time. And this was another one of those moments where I did it and I was like, I don't know what just happened. I have no idea what I did. And she stood up in front of the whole class, and big smile breaks out on her face. And you say, you see, this is what can happen in 2 weeks if you just apply yourself. And, she was super complimentary. And she gave me a framework for understanding how to really work as an actor, what the craft was, what it meant. It's not just about learning your lines and showing up. It's about committing to things that are bigger than yourself and to your scene mate, she changed my life. She totally changed my life in terms of how I looked at acting.
And in contrast to the criticism you received, that must have felt so good and so real. Because
totally, yeah. I felt like I'd earned it. I felt like I had been through the fire, and then I definitely understood something about what it took to be present and alive and focused, on stage.
So how long were you in this program with her?
This was just a 2 week. This was like like I did it. It was a summer thing. She was coming into town. I worked with her for 2 weeks. I did the same thing the next summer, had another great experience. And it was at that point that I was like, I think I need to commit to this. This is my thing. And so my junior year in college is where I really started to get my stuff together and study theater.
That's amazing. Just 2 weeks of your life has become sort of the foundation of your acting.
It is, yeah, completely, you know, and it makes you realize both how simple it is and how difficult it is, you know, like
Yeah.
what it truly takes to let go and you know, play in that space. And it also comes from that kernel from my drama director, and like everybody needs these people in their lives, you know, everybody needs these crossroad moments where you get encouragement from someone who's older than you, wiser than you, whatever, someone who just says, you know, I think you've got something going on here and I'm going to help you out. So my drama director just sending me to that audition, which I never would have heard of, you know, changed my life.
And maybe not knowing who Uta Hagen was helped you in a way? Because that
totally. I went in, had no, you know, if I'd known she was like one of the most important acting teachers in America, I would have, something else I'm sure would have happened. So, you know.
So from there, because you did a lot of stage before you made the transition over to Hollywood. Is that right?
Well, they sort of happened concurrently. I mean, I did a lot of stage in college. I worked in the theater right after school in Michigan.
Is that where the Jeff Daniels?
Yes. Yeah. Jeff Daniels lives in Michigan, and he started a theater right around the time I was graduating from college, which was dedicated to promoting, what's that?
Is it the Purple Rose?
Okay. Yeah, the Purple Rose Theater. And it was dedicated to, you know, fostering young talent like myself that reminded Jeff of him when he was younger, coming out of the Midwest. Because when you're coming out of the Midwest, going to New York or California, you might as well be going to Mars. You know, you have no clue. These places seem so glamorous and dense and frightening. And so, you know, he was dedicated to fostering that talent in the Midwest and trying to get it to, you know, move outward. So that was my first theater job, was working at the Purple Rose. And then at that time, Jeff liked what I was doing, and he helped get me a small part in Gettysburg, which was this movie he was doing at the time.
Can I show a clip of that?
By all means, yes.
I saw this on the big screen, so you know. Here it is.
Any man who joins us now, there'll be no court-martial.
No man will call me a coward.
Is there more? Now, I did not go through the rest of the movie to see are there more scenes?
There are more scenes, yes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was a glorified extra, obviously. I had that line, and then my other line was, I got me a reb, I got me one.
I would be excited for that now. So I think it's awesome. No, I think it
was incredible. I mean, I was right out of school. You know, I auditioned for the Purple Rose. I got this great part in this play that Jeff had written. I got to know him, and he gets me a part in a movie. I mean, it's like,
that is so cool.
It's the most fortunate entree into show business that anybody ever had. It's anything, that you or I would want or want for our kids.
It's a testament to obviously how good you are and were at that time as well. That he's like, I trust this guy. He should be in this.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah. He definitely like went out on a limb a little bit for me, but he knew I had something to offer. And it was a great sort of training ground for me because I got to spend a month on that set, and that cast was littered with all the great character actors you're ever going to want to work with. Tom Merritt, Martin Sheen, Stephen Lang. I mean,
Jordan. Is it Richard? What's his?
Richard Jordan, exactly. Tommy Howell. I mean, and lesser known guys too. I mean, I got to pick these guys' brains forever.
Wow.
For a month about, you know, how you make it in show business and acting for film and all that stuff. It was a great gig.
Was that initially? I thought I remembered it being a TV movie or a TV like mini series, and they made it into a.
It was a mini series. Yeah, it was meant to be, I think, a 3 or 4 part miniseries. And Turner, when he saw Ted Turner, who produced it, when he saw all the footage, he sort of insisted on making it a feature film. He wanted it to be, you know, an award nominated kind of movie. And so they released, I believe it's a 4.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
Into theaters.
I was there.
It's you know, it's one of those things that has its intense followers. You know, Civil War buffs are very devoted people. And working with reenactors is a whole other experience.
I have one problem with the film. Otherwise, and this matters that I have a problem with it.
Yeah, it does now.
You and Jeff Daniels, I would say, have the best facial hair in the movie. There's so many bad beards.
It's terrible beards. No, it's known for that. It's poor Tom Berenger. He's got like
so bad.
Got a beaver tail attached to his chin. It's yeah.
Did it feel it looked good
Not
at the
good.
time? Those
No,
beards?
we knew. He knew. Everybody knew. But this wasn't a Marvel movie. We didn't have unlimited resources, so we just ran with it.
They should fix it in post. Get Lucas in there, make some new CGI beards.
They could. Yeah, that's something that could happen now for sure.
Yours look good and real, and yours was real, right?
It was real. Yeah, that was all me.
And Jeff looked good, but that's
yeah.
cool. And you guys have continued a relationship too, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, the Purple Rose has really become one of my artistic homes, and I've acted there a couple of times. I did the world premiere of a Lanford Wilson play there called Rain Dance, and they've produced 2 of my plays in the past. They're producing a 3rd play of mine this summer.
Is that the one about animals?
It is, yeah.
Okay. You're talking about that on set.
It's called Bert and Trixie Visit the Vet. And it's about this group of animals in a veterinarian's waiting room. And they over the course of a period of time, they get the idea that one of them has been brought in there to be euthanized. And so they decide to try and help break this pet out of there. So all the animals, start scheming to get this dog released out into the world so he can live his life the way he wants to and not according to
it sounds so good.
It's really fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Are you going to be in it or no? You're just okay.
No. I directed a play of mine once and it almost broke my brain. I'm just not great with multitasking or splitting focus. So
you want to do one thing very, very well and not at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now, how do you? Okay, so I know Gettysburg came in the middle of this or the second one. But how do you go from, and I'm going to show you one clip and then I'm going to show you the next clip. How do you go from this?
Hey, Zach, say hi to Rick Larson.
Hey, Rick.
Rick is from Sigma Alpha.
Rick! Hey, come on in. We're already in. Well, sit down. You're already sitting down. Hey, want some Pringles? Everyone is perfect.
Hey, Zach, relax. He's here to see me.
The brothers and I wanted to extend a personal invitation to Slater to our open house tomorrow night.
Not too many people get those, huh?
Well, we like to think we attract the best on campus. Best brains, best families, best athletes.
Well, Rick, I'm sort of a jock myself.
Really? What sport?
Hockey. Yes, I'm going out for the hockey team.
So am I. I'll see you at tryouts this afternoon. Yeah, I didn't get to play last year. Concussion, got my head slammed into the boards. It was great.
Wow.
Now to the next. I want to go to the next clip, and then how do you get from this? And you're good. Like, obviously, this is not to say anything.
Right.
You wouldn't want to be on that show, and you're just as good as you are now. But how do you go from that to this in just 5 years?
I want you to know, I consider this an honor. Bury the body. Bag the head. Why don't you try looking someplace else? The lady and I were trying to dance.
You were trying.
She was succeeding. Would you care for something to drink? No? A different vintage, perhaps. You're doing well. Your brother would have shot himself by now.
Pop that up a little bit.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
That's so. How does that happen? And you're great in both, but that's huge.
Thanks. No, it was. I mean, there were a lot of things that happened in between those two things in 5 years.
You had a series regular pilot, didn't you?
I had a series regular. I was on a show for 2 seasons called Almost Perfect, which was a sitcom, but it sort of really helped land me in the sort of showbiz firmament, I guess. Once you become a regular on a show, I think it gives you a certain amount of credit that you wouldn't have otherwise. And I also, there was another one of those jobs where I was working with Nancy Travis, who had done tons of feature films, and some other guy, David Clennon and Chip Zion, people with long resumes, and I got to learn a lot from them, and just gain confidence. Lots of guest starring roles, and so between Saved by the Bell, which was just it was my first job in LA, my very first job in LA, and between that and what ended up happening with Zorro. There was a pretty steep learning curve in between those two things. And I got Zorro almost immediately after Almost Perfect ended. I mean, it was about a month or two after that show was canceled that I ended up getting Zorro.
And I imagine after the show got canceled, I assume probably to some degree gutted, because that was a great, huge job.
Yeah, to some degree, but it was really to a small degree. I mean, if it was like gutted to happy, it would probably be a 70 happy, 30 gutted thing, because, I was 24, something, 25, and I was ready to get on with the big journey that was going to be my career. And I wanted to be doing everything.
So in a sense, it was maybe a little sense of freedom.
Yeah. No, it was like, okay. And then when Zorro comes, and at the same time I got Zorro, I got my first Broadway show, which was this Neil Simon play called Proposals. So I got fired from this show, and then within a month, I had like a year plus worth of work lined up. I had all this, and I was like, okay, well, this is how it's supposed to happen. Things are just supposed to fall into place like this. And
to be young.
Yeah, exactly. So, I loved working on Almost Perfect, and I loved everybody on that show, and there was sadness, but just, being young and being ambitious, I was ready to try some other stuff.
So how did you, obviously you have the resume with the series regular. How do you, because I assume Almost Perfect, you're nothing like this guy, this jerk.
No, I was more like the Saved by the Bell. I was a goofy kid from the Midwest who was the most junior writer on this cop show. That was Almost Perfect. So to go to Zorro, that was one of those like sliding doors moments where things could have gone much differently one way or the other. I auditioned for Zorro for the casting director. It was a general audition to start with, because she did not know me. Pam Dixon was her name. And she brought me in for her, and she said, I think the director would like to meet you. And then brought me in for Martin Campbell, who directed it. And Martin liked me, but I didn't realize how much he liked me until later, because I ended up having another audition for producers and Martin and Pam. And so I knew that he was into it. And then after that, it was, you're going to screen test for this role. And so this was all the show was canceled in October or early November. I auditioned in November, and then in December I was screen testing for this major part in a major studio picture. Wow. And I didn't get it. I was told that I didn't get the part, and that was after 4 auditions, and I was devastated. But I went on with my life, and in the meantime, I had gotten the Neil Simon play, so I was excited about that.
Of course.
But I had 6 months, and so I was going to go through pilot season and everything every other actor does. And then I got a call. This was probably the 3rd week of January, something like that. So it was about a month later. I got a call saying it didn't work out with the guy they wanted.
Good.
They want you doing it. You have to pack your bags and be on a plane at 7:00 tomorrow morning. You're going to be in Mexico for 6 months.
You said no.
And I said, I said only if it. Anyway, I couldn't pack that bag fast enough. It was.
Was the play done?
Well, no, the play wasn't starting until.
Okay.
It all worked out great, because I was shooting like January to June, and then I was starting the play, and that was going to go June until whenever it ended.
Wow.
So like I had months of work in front of me, and then I got this. Incredibly, I got this part, and it was all because once this other guy dropped out.
Do you know who, or can you say?
I don't for sure know who.
Okay.
somebody told me once they thought they knew who it was, but I can't confirm it. But I do know that Martin Campbell said, the director said, I want Matt. And
wow,
that's who you're going to get. Like, he really stood up for me at that point and said, this, I want you to give it to this guy. And yeah, so then I was down in Mexico, like 24 hours later, I'm sitting at a table with Anthony Hopkins and Antonio Banderas.
Oh my God.
Lita Jones, and I'm doing a table read for this
This
new Zorro movie, and I'm going to be riding horses and
sword fighting,
all this stuff you dream of, when you're.
Was that hard, that learning curve for sword fighting? And
well, I had a fair amount of stage combat in college. Okay. So like I was actually pretty comfortable with sabers and rapiers and things like that, but the horses I had no clue about. And I didn't lie either. I didn't do that actor thing where I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I can ride horses. I told them, I said, I can't do this. And they said, that's okay. We've got, a great stunt coordinator and they're going to get you up and running. And they did.
Did the stage combat knowledge help you get the part, or did that not even matter?
I don't think it really mattered, because what they're, that's what they have. A movie that big, like Antonio himself had 4 different stuntmen. Wow. For his stunts, he had a horse guy, a sword guy, an acrobatics guy, all these things. So, they're not concerned about that stuff. That's sort of, if you can do that, great. That's sort of gravy. And Antonio could do all that stuff. He was all of our swords were, all of our fights, all that stuff was all us. We never used our stunt people for that. Wow. And we rehearsed the hell out of those fights, and he was great. But really, fun? Oh, it was so much. It was so much fun. Because I haven't so much fun.
You didn't. I mean, when we were on set, you did not talk about this movie so much. I didn't ask about it.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while now. I mean, it's been almost 30 years since we made that movie, and yeah, no, it was like a dream. Getting first of all, Tony Hopkins was my acting hero.
Oh yeah.
I mean, to be in a movie with him at all was incredible. To be with one with like this much to do was great. Mexico, it's where I fell in love with Mexico. An incredible country, incredible people.
Where'd you shoot? All over, or
all over Mexico? We shot at the Churubusco Studios in Mexico City. We shot in a ton of little towns, little old haciendas all over Mexico. I've worked there 3 times now, and I've loved it more each time.
That's right. You did Narcos Mexico as well.
Did Narcos Mexico. I did a movie called The King of Texas, which was based on King Lear with Patrick Stewart down there. And it's just incredible, talent, directors, crew, all that stuff. And, you're getting to be this larger than life, old timey swashbuckler villain, I mean, it was incredible. It was just incredible. I couldn't have asked for more.
And you, beyond hold your own, you are so great in this. And there's a lot, obviously I've seen you and stuff for years. I didn't know you, so it didn't,
Yeah.
And that's not,
that's okay. Well, that's all right.
In a way, I think that is what makes your career the best. And I think somewhat like me, you're a generic white guy, though you have a much better chin.
Thanks.
But I want your chin. I might get that done. No, but you're just so good in this. And I'm again glad I didn't watch these clips before I worked with you, because I would have been terrified that you might stab me or something, or chop it.
Yeah. No, it's and this is, I learned a lot on this movie too. I mean, really, when I think about it, as we're talking about it, I've gotten these opportunities starting out that were like, I couldn't have, if I were applying to a school to teach me how to be an actor, I couldn't have found a better curriculum, to be working on a movie, a major studio movie with somebody like Tony Hopkins and Antonio for 6 months. I mean, it really was a film acting clinic. And I learned a lot from them, from Martin Campbell, from Phil Mayhew, the director of cinematography. It was like going to school as much as it was working. And got fortunate.
And the bonus is that it was a good film and successful.
Yeah, all that. And it started me thinking, that the wake-up call is coming. I mean, I've been so fortunate. I've been able to work in this business for 30 some years now. And I've never really had to do another job, which is incredible. Nobody gets to do that.
Yeah.
But I did have, as we discussed, I did have ambitions. I did have things that I thought should happen for me. And especially after doing a movie like Zorro and then going straight from that to do my Broadway debut with Neil Simon, it was just like, all right, so this is, the gathering storm, this is what every year is going to be like. And then there are years where you go sideways, or you take a step back, or however you want to think of it.
Or there's a strike and a pandemic.
Basically, the idea is nothing ever plays out the way you think it's going to. You have all these plans for yourself as a young actor, and it's never going to happen that way. So the sooner you can kind of relinquish control, or the idea of control of all that stuff, the better off you'll be.
Well, I also think that's part of the excitement too, is that you don't know what's around the next corner. As hard as you try, and the things you don't want maybe are the things you get and end up being amazing.
That's the other thing. You have all this judgment about things, or this prejudice about the work itself. I've done things that I thought for sure this is going to be garbage. This is just a paycheck, and it turned into just one of the best experiences, and vice versa. Working with, Oscar winners in something that ended up being a total freaking dud.
Example?
You can't predict. Well, the one I was thinking of was this movie called Devil's Knot. Now, the movie itself isn't necessarily dud, but it's based on the West Memphis 3. Adam Agoyan directed it.
Oh, wow.
Reese Witherspoon is in it. There are other, it wasn't a huge budget, but it was an A-list picture.
Yeah.
And it just never came together. It's just one of those things where you've probably never heard of it or never seen it.
I know the actors and directors, but I don't know.
Right. Colin Firth was in it too. I just
never heard of him.
Yeah. Damn Brits. That's one of those things where you go into it thinking, I'm entering, whatever, the dojo here. I'm going to get ready to do some serious work. And then it just doesn't end up coming together.
And when you were making it, did you feel like, oh, this is good? Or was it at the time you're like, oh, it doesn't feel like it's cohesive, it's not coming together?
I don't really focus on stuff like that. Like, I try not to make value judgments while I'm working on it. It's hard to tell if anything's good or bad, or
okay.
There's so much more of the process left when it comes to editing and scoring and all that stuff. So I just basically dump as much raw material into the grinder as I can, and hopefully it's worthwhile to the director. But
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But you've done a bunch of series regulars, so
yeah.
And you wrote a pilot as well, because I see you won an award for a pilot at the.
Oh well, yeah, at the at the festival in New York. It was for a web series, so it's not like it wasn't a on-air network pilot, but it was a show that I wrote with one of my friends from college about these 4 guys who used to play basketball together in high school. They decided to reform their high school basketball team and enter a really competitive 3-on-3 tournament. It's like a, middle-aged, kind of comedy. It works. It's called One and Done. It's one, and you can find it on Amazon right now.
I was looking for it. Okay, because I saw that on your IMDb. So that's what that is. Cool.
Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
What I want to ask you. Oh yeah. So you kind of shared some advice and stuff. Do you have any advice for up and comers? Something that you wish you had known before you got into the business?
I was really lucky to get a lot of good advice early on. And the business has changed so much since when I got into it, and I'm sure even in the last 5 years, as it's, the particulars of how you go about getting employment.
Well, they added sound.
Right? Yeah, they're talkies now.
Yeah.
That's true. That was a big struggle for me. But
me too.
But for me, it's always been the most important thing. And it was important to me too, when I first started out in LA, always be working. If you can be, always be working. And that means anything. Like, I got offered, I met through a friend, a guy who was directing Richard III, and he was playing Richard, and he was, doing that sort of, where each actor had to handle 2 or 3 roles, and so it was a smaller cast, but we're doing it above a bookstore in Westwood. And everybody was wearing all black, and we had like 5 sheets that we hung in the background for different locations.
Yeah.
One of those,
That's kind of cool though.
Yeah, one night we performed for one person. There was literally one person in the audience. And it was a great experience, I mean, because it kept me oiled, it kept me working and thinking, and it also put me in touch with other people who were trying to do the same thing I was.
And you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, because I love it, because I want to, I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. And that's the thing that I feel like a lot of people will fall into the trap. It's easier now because you have things like, YouTube. People are making their own things, when it comes to movies and TV shows. Like this, such as this, which is great. But because this builds community, I think that's super important, when you're starting out. It's not just about networking. It's about building a community that knows you and knows your strengths and people you can call on in times of need. That's all very important for somebody just starting out. So that would be my number one piece of advice.
That's great.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you have any, before you get onto set, do you have any hocus pocus, anything that you do to get in the zone or clear your head, or just, you're not method?
I'm not at all. No, I, really, for me, it's that magic if, or acting as if, I'm sure you've heard that in different acting classes. It's just, and of course, it depends on the tenor of the scene. A lot of it depends on who you're working with and how they like to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't go through a method-like process, but let's assume that I have a day where I've got 3 or 4 scenes to shoot, and a couple of those scenes might be really emotional scenes of some kind.
Yeah.
I won't sort of hang around on set and chit chat, A lot of what you're doing is, when it comes to film acting, over the course of a production, over the course of a day, is marshaling your energy, is sort of like making sure you have what you need once the camera's pointed at you and they're saying rolling.
And that's hard.
It's hard. You really have to plan for this stuff, especially as you get older. It's just one of those things where you just have to be, I will, if I have a day like that, I'll spend a good amount of time just in my trailer. Maybe music is part of it. Some people that really helps them, I just like to find some quiet place and just breathe, and just let, I guess it's kind of a meditation, but I like to let things kind of cycle in and out and not get hung up on what's about to happen and really making it perfect, but just showing up there as open and relaxed and present as I possibly can be, and then just see what happens,
and just follow the truth of it as you learn from Uta.
And as you learn from the director you're working with and your other actors, and you trying to control the outcome of things is sure death for an actor. Yeah.
Well, we had that, we have a pretty emotional scene together in this movie, Shattered Ice. And I locked myself, because it's a lower budget film. So we shared this room basically as our trailer.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of chit chat. So I locked myself away in my car for a good portion of that day. But we didn't get to that until late. And I was like,
I know.
Is it going to be there? And it was a challenge.
Oh, well, you delivered though. No, it ended up being great.
Did it look all right?
Really, oh yeah, no, excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Because I remember the director's like, "Can you bring more tears?" I'm like, at home, my nose is like running. I brought myself to places I didn't want to go.
This is, and that's tough to get a direction like that. And I know what they're asking for.
Sure, me too.
But
I wish.
There's that old rule with crying for actors, which I always like to reference in times like that, which is what is it? It's if you cry and they don't cry, bad. If you cry and they cry, good. If you don't cry and they cry, best, right? Because really what you're not looking for is the result. You're looking for the struggle that ends up in that result. You're looking for whoever the actor is, that character, pushing against allowing that to happen, because nobody wants that. They don't want to go there. There's always the resistance that ends up creating the kind of, somersault effect into it. And you had all that going on.
You pushed out that, not pushed out, but you have this beautiful little tear that came out in our, it was so good. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see. I mean, the final cut, but and I'm not judging it all and not of you, but I had this other like movie review show and we were talking about Denzel Washington versus Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai and Denzel in Glory. And they both have these scenes that are identical where the camera's moving slowly and in their faces and a tear rolls down.
Yeah.
And Tom Cruise, obviously he's huge and amazing, but he's just like,
yeah.
Denzel's just like plain face and then the tear, which is what you did, that kind of calm, the tear rolled down. I was just like, wow.
I really do try to not, whether it's a scene like that or even comedy, you know, it's like anytime you're trying to make something happen, you're just dead. You're dead in the water.
You lock it up. Yeah.
Everybody feels the dishonesty there, you know, the camera, the audience, everybody. So, you know, I'm a big fan of prepare like crazy, show up ready to go, and then just let it go. Just let go. Just let it ride. See what happens. Don't try and control it.
Now you have worked, and maybe I've said this already, you've worked with some legends, and we're going to get to your kiss and tell shortly, but do you mind if I play a couple of clips? I'm not going to keep you forever.
No, I love it. Yeah, please. Yes, play clips of me acting. Let's do it.
Yeah, no, they're so good. They're so good. Okay, so you've worked with Aaron Sorkin on The West Wing. So let's watch that.
Okay.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Mr. Ziegler, I invited you down here today.
You have a 5-letter word for blow hard?
Toby?
Just ask him that.
Mr. Ziegler, as much as we both enjoy these sessions, I was hoping we could keep this one brief. Thank you. Now, there's a deal on the table, and as much as I wouldn't mind locking you up for the next 6 years, the information you leaked was classified. You were not authorized to have it, and the public, a group you should have some allegiance to, has the right to know where you got it. You broke the law. You didn't do it alone. Tell me where you got your information. We knock it down to a year.
What's it like playing with that dialogue? Because that's so good. You're just kind of, I don't know.
Boy, that was, it's great. It's great dialogue. I mean, I went in there. I worked one day on that job. That was it.
And you have more scenes, but that's
more scenes. But we shot them all in one day.
Oh boy!
And working with Richard was great. He's one of those guys that's extremely honest, ruthless about it almost, and it's just going in what's expected of you. You know that the language it's of primary importance to the writer / producer. And so, you're very, very aware of all the periods and every little bit of the line. You want to take care of all of it.
Any improv? Does he allow it?
Not for me.
Excuse me.
I remember Richard asking a couple of questions during it that weren't in there before. Like, I don't know if any of that ended up making the final cut or not, but I just was like, I'm just going to show up, get my words right, and and hope it all turns out okay, which it did, But I wish you always wish you could have more in a scenario like that when you're working with something that's that high quality. You're like, oh man, I'd love to be a member of this family, even like a distant, second cousin that they bring in every couple of months or something like that. It would be great.
Maybe it'll happen if the show comes back.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
And then you also work with Spikejonze in this.
That doesn't come across.
That sounds good.
Well, what if you interviewed your mom about what her dreams were about, and then you hired actors to act them out? Okay, that might show your thesis more clearly. Yeah?
I love that movie.
How fun was that? Was it a blast working?
It was a total blast. It was a total blast. Spikejonze is one of the most highly creative people I've ever met in my life. He does everything on his movie. He wrote that. He's directing. He's camera operating. He's editing all of it.
I didn't know that.
And he's also incredibly playful. He just shows up and he's like, "Oh, you know what? Let's try this shot." He adjusts to circumstance and environment as well as any director I've ever worked with. Amyadams is just a delight.
Who was your wife, right?
Yeah. Were we married?
wife or
We were
girlfriend.
married. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
I think we're just. I don't think we were married yet.
You should be. You should have gotten.
Should have been. Yeah. But it was lovely working with her, and Joaquin is incredible. I mean, he's.
I wonder what I am curious. How is he on set? Is he?
I found him to be great. I mean, he sly sense of humor. I mean, again, somebody who is very clearly interested in bringing something very, very truthful to the screen. You know, he you know, working with him, I could tell that he doesn't. You can tell when he gets bumped up against something that feels shticky or not right, or he's a very instinctive, deeply instinctive actor in that regard.
Which must be refreshing.
Oh, it's great. It's great because when you're on a movie like that too, working with somebody like that, you feel like you have the time to make it right. You know what I mean? Lots of times you're working on something like on Shattered Ice. It's like, we have no time. We have no money.
Of course.
You just have to get the scene on film and keep going. And hopefully,
and a lot of TV shows are like that too.
A lot of TV shows are certainly like that. And a movie like Her with Spikejonze at the helm, it's like, we're going to do this until it's right. We're going to answer all our questions, and and you just feel like this liberty to drop the artifice, to drop any kind of idea of what has to happen in the scene and just let it play, and Joaquin was a big part of that too. I only worked on that movie for a couple of weeks, but it's really one of my sort of prize experiences in this business.
And you're hilarious. You're super subtle, as you always are, but your delivery is so funny.
Yeah. I have this scene in the elevator earlier in the movie where Joaquin gets on holding a smoothie, and I have this whole lecture for him about why he should be, eating his eating his fruits and juicing his vegetables, because juicing the fruits, you lose all the fiber, which is what your body needs, and it's just sugar. It's just one of the it's great dialogue by Spikejonze, and
which brings us back to the tomatoes.
Which it was a hurdle. I'm not gonna lie, but we got over it.
Always the fruit. But don't you know what people say? You've got to eat your fruits and juice your vegetables.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no. By juicing the fruit, you lose all the fibers, and that's what your body wants. That's the important part. Otherwise, it's all just sugar.
But I was told, so I had 3 or 4 scenes in the movie, and before it came out, I was told that I had been cut from the movie.
Oh,
yeah, we got a call from Spikejonze saying, we're gonna have to cut Matt's role from the movie for time purposes, and it's just not. We're gonna try. So they tried that, and then a few weeks later, we got a call saying he's back in.
Oh, good. Oh man, that sucked for 2 weeks.
Yeah, but it was one of those things that I was like, that was one of those things you want to be a part of. And I'd never been cut from anything before, and
I have.
We all have at this point. I mean, you're not an actor if you haven't been, but
it's a part of it, and you got to get used to it. But I'm glad you got back in.
Yeah, no, it was freaky lucky.
Again, I'm not going to keep you forever, but I have 3 more clips.
Let's go crazy.
Or talk about them. Okay, so first one, you got very. How is it delving into a real character? And I will show a clip from Boardwalk Empire.
Great.
They judge us, don't you think? The Brahmins in their ilk. As if their fortunes just wafted down from Episcopalian heaven. I've dealt with it all my life.
Money doesn't know where it comes from. And it wouldn't give a damn if it did.
1 generation. That's all it takes in this country. If you play your hand right.
You have a gambler's spirit, Joe.
Gambling implies risk. I take the risk out of it.
How do you manage that?
By rigging the game, of course. What else is the stock market good for?
There's that laugh again.
Joe Kennedy. Yeah, there's that villain laugh.
How was that? Did you feel that you had to try to be what you know him to be, or how much research did that require of you? Because you're in a few episodes as that character.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, I researched it. There are a couple of biographies I read. I was in, I think, 5 episodes in the last season.
Okay.
5 or 6, something like that. And they took some liberties with the character, and historically speaking, which, you know, any show would. So I wasn't too worried about, like, you know, making sure I was truly authentic as Joe Kennedy, but I did want the dialect to be good and subtle.
So hard.
Yeah, it's not an easy one, and I feel like I got to where I wanted to get to with it. You know, just watching that scene anyway, I was like, oh, yeah, it's not bad.
No.
So I didn't feel like a crushing responsibility to, you know, bring Joe Kennedy to the screen.
Well, it's not like any of us actually know him either, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's always been a little more behind the scenes with Jack and Bobby and all that.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have a character like that. So you have some, you can refer to some springboard or foundation that you know exists. We know who Joe Kennedy was. We know who his family was. We know where he came from. We know the kind of business he was involved. I can use all that stuff.
Yeah.
Not have to worry about building any of that stuff. But then when it comes down to actually being the guy, it's dependent on the writing you get and the actors you're working with. And obviously working with Steve Buscemi is like,
that was his first job, right?
Yeah, he's going to be good. I think that kid.
He might make it.
Yeah. No, as you're working with people like that, and you're in really great hands. So
yeah,
you feel freedom when you're working with people like that.
Now we have a very good friend named Renee Zara.
Yes,
she played your wife in Shattered Ice. She insisted, and not that I'm against it, but I had not seen it, but she insisted that I play a clip from The Flash.
The Flash. Yes. Yeah. Let's do it.
When she first said, "Oh my God, I'm working with Matt Letscher. He's Reverse Flash," and I hadn't watched it, and she's, "Oh my God," she was like beside herself before she even met you, and this is why.
You may have figured out a way to dampen my speed with this glass cage, but I will get out of here and I will destroy your life, Flash, one way or the other. This isn't your home, Barry. This is a mirage, a fiction that will end us both unless you let me the hell out of this thing!
Wow. You're not listening, Don.
Why would I want to get out of here? I'm whole here. There's even a Flash, so...
Yeah, and who is this dashing young speedster, huh? Do you know? Even care? While you sit around and hide like a lost, lonely little boy, letting someone else risk their life to protect the city, our common enemy is coming for us both.
What common enemy is that?
Time. It's already screwing with you and everyone you love, and pretty soon it's going to take me right down along with you.
That must be so fun. Is that so fun to play that?
Super fun.
And you were you're a series regular on this.
For a couple of seasons I was, yeah, not for the whole time, but that, and then
they're lost.
Yeah, there's another show. There was 4 DC superhero shows shooting at that time, and there's another one called Legends of Tomorrow that I was also a regular on for a season. Okay. That's the great thing about being a character from that, what they call the Arrowverse, is you got to sort of jump around from show to show anytime. They needed your character. It was great. They made me this leather suit. You saw it. I mean, this suit that, you know, it's just fun. But it's also like watching that scene, I was like, this is good writing. And Grant, who they got for the lead, is a really good actor. And, you know, it's easy to dismiss this stuff sometimes based on the package it comes in, but really good. Really good show. I was really proud to be a part of that show.
And I trimmed that down too. So obviously you both had a little bit more to do there, but I wanted to get
that. No. Like it's, I would include that in any retrospective about my career for sure. Okay. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Now I remember on set that because one question I generally ask, again, this is getting a bit long, but I like to ask people cherished moments. And I remember when we were on set, I think I asked you, what was something that you really had meant maybe the most to you in your career, and you brought up the Beach Boys. I don't have a clip, but I think you said this was huge to you.
It'd be hard to find a clip. Well, it was sort of huge for me because it was
and you were Mike Love. right?
Yeah, I played Mike Love, lead singer of the Beach Boys. It was a mini series that ABC did back when they used to do like kind of movies of the week and miniseries. John Stamos produced it along with the Beach Boys.
And there they are in this
And
picture.
there they are. Oh, hey, yeah, there we are. And my Mike Love get up there, my beard. It was a sprawling kind of epic sort of thing. And their story, if you don't know it, is really worthy of a big screen portrayal. They're sort of like this like classic American tragedy. But it was important for me because I had been through that period with Zorro and Broadway.
This is right after those.
This is right after. This is a couple of years after I had finished that.
And you're a newly married man.
I'm a newly married man. Kids are soon in the offing. And I had spent a year or so like turning stuff down because I thought that I should be doing certain kinds of work, big features, interesting independent stuff. I would do that. Right? I did a few independent movies. Yeah. I mean, I did stuff, but after a year of that, there wasn't anybody saying, here, come on in. We're going to give you the lead of a huge picture.
Yeah.
And my manager at some point said, Matt, you need to work. You need to like really just take the time to work. And that's when Beach Boys came along. And I remember reading that script and not thinking much of the script. Yeah. I didn't really know much about their background. But I was being offered this great part. What's that?
I'm sorry. Were you a fan of them?
I mean, a light one. I listened to Pet Sounds when I was in high school and stuff. It wasn't. I wasn't a super fan. Like I wouldn't have known much about their history at all. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of begrudgingly signed up to do this miniseries. This great part in this cool story in this miniseries. But I was a little grouchy about it, and I was certain that it was just going to be not good. And I ended up working with this group of guys. Fred Weller played Brian in this, who's, I don't know if you know Fred's work, but he's a terrific actor. I loved the people I was working with. This guy, Jeff Bleckner, directed it, who he got a DGA nomination for it. He was ended up being this terrific director. I learned about the Beach Boys and their history and the tragedy of their life. I learned about their place in music history and how truly important. I used to think of them as just kind of a bubblegum band, and musically, Brian Wilson changed everything,
And he was a big competitor to Paul McCartney, right?
Yeah, they went back and forth with the Beatles for a few albums. I mean, just basically one-upping each other, which I never really understood that. But the bottom line was, all the people were working on that for all the right reasons except me, And once I got with the program, I'm not saying I was a problem, but I'm saying, like, for me, it was like, you know what? You have to recognize that anytime you're on set anywhere being paid to do this, it's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
That sentence, it's not it's not anything like, it is an opportunity that you have to respect because everybody's giving their all for this. And so you have to show up and give your all, which is what I did. And it ended up being this really great thing. It got nominated for a bunch of awards and something I was really proud of. But more than that, I learned that you just can't take anything for granted, and you cannot predict how anything's going to turn out ahead of time. You just have to do your job and hope everybody else does theirs, and then, let fate take its course. But
that's a good lesson again.
Huge.
Yeah. And what a nice real life arc of your character. Right? Like, I don't want to do it too.
Right.
No, I'm lucky to be here.
Yes. In the movie of my life, it was an important, really important time. And it was, there was some back and forth there for a few years because, a lot of actors when they're young are really ambitious. You want to do everything. You think you're right for everything. You think you should get everything. And it takes some hard lessons to, learn that that's not how the world works. It's not how acting or filmmaking or anything works. So.
But looking at the breadth of your career and all these clips I've looked at, you can do anything. Like, you are convincing in everything you do.
That's very kind. Thank you. And it is something I do take pride in is being versatile, being able to show up in different scenarios. I'm working on this Chuck Lorre sitcom right now called Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage. And
I have a clip.
Oh.
Do you mind if I interrupt you with a
Well,
clip?
what a nice segue. Yes, by all means, let's see the clip.
We planned this well. My wife and son love this show. So I was like, I just don't watch a lot of TV, but I was like at the table and like, I know that voice. And I look over and there you were.
Yeah.
But here.
No, I'm single. Suzanne left me.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's a good thing. I got my own little house out by the lake. You should come out and see it sometime.
All these years, nothing's changed.
You mean I'm still a handsome devil that you can't keep your hands off of?
I mean, you're still a dog.
So, who doesn't love dogs, huh?
Are you going to help me out or what?
I never could say no to that face.
Thank you.
But no.
That's so good.
It's so fun.
What were you
So
going to say about it, though? I'm sorry, because I cut you off.
I don't remember.
Well, I said you could play anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's versatility. I think we were talking about versatility, being able to slide into any kind of, whether it's a sitcom, an episodic, whether it's a period piece like Zorro or Boardwalk Empire.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have something to offer in all those different situations, and not every actor can say that. And I feel like it's been a lot of what sustained me, because I've never really become overexposed. I've always said I'm like at just the right amount of celebrity that, like, I think I went to high school with you kind of celebrity, where
That's
somebody,
a dream.
It's perfect. It's perfect. It's low maintenance and everything I could ever want.
But I'm sure people are like, I know you from this or whatever, but
it happens all the time. Yeah. And it literally is like, did we go to high school together or something like that?
Like maybe,
and then, anyway, it's just, I take that as a compliment, actually, that I've sort of, and again, it goes back to Uta Hagen about being seamless, introducing yourself into any scenario and adapting to the rules of that scenario, to given circumstances of that scenario.
And that's why I say, in regards to the fame, why your career is it's the dream career. Like, if a lot of people are like, I want to be famous, make a ton of money, and you've done okay, and your career has been amazing, but you can walk around and not necessarily be, oh, it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah, the first show I was on, that Almost Perfect we were talking about, I remember my name. This was when we still had phone books. My name and number were in the book still. I was in the yellow pages, and I ended up getting a call from some guy who sounded really obsessive and strange.
Oh God.
Like, I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and he heard her voice in the back. Like, I just remember picking up this call, and I was talking to this person who was looking for me and or my character in this sitcom. And I hung up with this guy, and I was like, wow, I never want to be dealing with people like that. That's
scary.
And that's definitely creepy, and you just never know what's on the other side of something like that. And that's what comes with celebrity, though. That's what comes with fame, is for all the benefits, and they're huge. Obviously, people would love to do it, but you are completely exposed all the time to all elements of life, and I just don't think I could live that way.
Did you immediately change your phone number?
Oh yeah, no, it was out.
We're moving.
I paid for a new Yellow Pages to be distributed all over town.
I would too.
Yeah.
Okay, so to our kiss and tell, you teased Mangold, not Mangold. What is your kiss and tell?
Well, my kiss and tell, it's really about me, and it's I don't have any like dramatic stories about other people, misbehaving or doing anything crazy. But I was in a movie that James Mangold directed, one of his first big studio movies, called Identity, with John Cusack. Oh, do you really?
Do you want to see it?
Sure.
Okay, quick clip.
Sure. No, this will be useful, actually. Go ahead.
Okay, good.
Yeah, let's see it.
Here we go.
There's going to be a midnight hearing in the Rivers case. The defense, they found a notebook misfiled in evidence, a diary. They argued to the state supremes that it was suppressed.
What the hell are you talking about?
Look, there's no media, nothing. All right, this has all happened under the radar. The prisoner transport left about an hour ago from Ely.
Left Ely? What do you mean left Ely? What transport?
The diary gave them an opening, Gary, to argue insanity again. That they said they needed Rivers present, so they pumped him full of drugs. They put him on transport.
I mean, how cool you start the movie.
So just a little background,
Yeah.
if you'll indulge me.
Please.
I auditioned for this movie right after my first child was born. Like 2 weeks later, it was my first audition afterwards, and I was full of all that new daddy energy. And I remember really working hard on this audition, and wanting to get the part and wanting to do well for my son, and I walked into this audition as prepared for any as I had ever had, and the whole audition was that opening monologue. It was about a page and a half, something like that. And I remember coming in and just squaring it up and crushing it, just doing everything, and James Mangold, the director of recent fame, For a Complete Unknown,
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of our best directors working today. And
Heavy, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, this was right after Heavy, and I remember him saying something to something like, you can't do it better than that, And I walked out of there, one of those things where you walk out knowing you have the job.
Yeah.
And I got the call. I had the job. It's in this big movie with John Cusack. I opened the movie with this big monologue. I crushed it. So excited. And I was cast, I think it was, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, a month before we were starting shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the call to show up for the first day we're shooting at City Hall, that monologue you just saw.
Yeah.
And I am just as prepared as I ever was before. I show up on set. I'm given the sides. The monologue has been completely rewritten.
Oh, God.
From top to bottom. I mean, it's all new. I'm looking at it, thinking it's like hieroglyphics. I'm like, what is this?
That's scary. I know from my perspective, that's terrifying.
It's incredibly terrifying. I was working with this actor. His name was, he's since passed, RIP, but his name was Paul Coffin. And he was like just one of your great character actors who was like constantly chain smoking.
Was he in Total Recall? Is that right?
He might have been. I'm not sure. I don't know his whole resume, but he was on this. He was like a hard-bitten detective on this movie.
Yeah.
And he was there when I got delivered these pages, and I said, "These are not what I have prepared." And I remember him going, "I'm out of here," and he goes into his trailer and shuts the door, and so the PA or assistant director, whoever gave me these sides, was like, well, that's what we're shooting today. And so I had a choice in that moment, right? I was like, and I can tell people that I don't know this monologue, or I can take the half hour to 45 minutes before I'm supposed to be on set and try and learn this monologue and do it. Stupidly, I chose the latter. What a responsible person would and should do is let the director know, look, there's been a mistake and I'm not prepared to do this. But I had that thing in me where I was worried about being the one who screwed things up. I had not been delivered any rewrites. I had not missed something, It was just
someone
dropped the ball. But I didn't want to be the guy that shut down production because I didn't know the monologue.
Yeah, you don't want to be difficult.
So what I tried to do was learn this monologue in 45 minutes. And that's what you see on screen is me delivering that monologue that I had learned about 45 minutes, an hour beforehand. And it was not as good as my audition. It was not.
You can't tell. You can't tell.
Well, it ends up working out. And probably a lot of that is due to James and his editor and all the other elements that go into making a scene like that. But it was a big lesson for me because I think he did notice that I was not perfectly off book. I don't remember having the conversation with him. And I've seen him a couple of times since then, really briefly. And it's always been very
because he's like, oh, it's that guy that screwed up my scene.
Well, but I had that feeling that really all this stuff was happening on set and in the room that had nothing to do with the movie, had nothing to do with what eventually was going to be on screen. And really what I should have done was, instead of making a choice out of fear, was to make the adult choice, which would have been, something got missed. We have a problem here. Let's figure out how to work on this problem together.
Yeah,
that's what filmmaking is. That's what storytelling is. That's what, working on something larger than yourself is all about, is turning to those around you who are paid to handle, and looking for support. And because of my personal, peccadillos or whatever, I chose to go the other way. And it was really one of the most terrifying experiences.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like you said, it ends up today, nobody would know and looking good, but
it comes down to advocating for yourself as well.
That's it. Which is, as an actor, you're always showing up and you're a supplicant, right? You're showing up to ask for a job. You're showing up for someone else to tell you it's okay to start working on something.
Yeah.
And having that mentality, it's hard to advocate for yourself in those scenarios. But you have to learn how. It's really important that you have to understand that. That's another thing I would say to a young actor. You have to learn how to advocate for yourself in ways that are respectful but important. And that's one scenario where I learned the lesson after the fact. But
the same thing happened to me on Shattered Ice. I did not have a monologue, but they, on the call sheet, and not to call anyone out, but on the call sheet, they left my number off the scene that I was in.
Oh,
but
no.
you scan, okay, my number's not there. I'm good. I didn't know. And there was a lot of schedule changing on that one.
Yeah.
And it was the bar scene. When you're at the bar, you're ticked off because your son's been out all night. And I just have a couple of lines, not much, but still my brain wasn't geared towards it. And I was thinking it was the emotional day. And they're like, oh no, we need you. I'm like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
And
no, it's all that stuff, all those little distractions that come up, just end up taking away from the final product in some ways that sometimes you wouldn't be able to identify or tell what that is, but you as the actor knows there's something that's left out now because I haven't come to set fully prepared and present.
Yeah. I was calling you by the wrong name. I don't know if you remember. I was calling you by your real name, not the character name. I just wasn't there.
That's it. I just wasn't there. You just weren't. Yeah.
That kind of sucked, but that was it. Thank you for your time. I'm trying to think, no, we've done enough, but everyone please check out and look for Matt Letscher, not only in Suits LA, which is out now. My sister-in-law was just in that too. Suits LA, Shattered Ice. Keep an eye out for this.
There it is.
And there we are with our fake wives, Tara and Renee.
Yeah.
So look for that movie. Do you have anything else coming up you want to talk about, or any your play? What's your play?
Well, yeah. If you find yourself in Chelsea, Michigan this summer, come see Bert and Trixie Visit the Vet.
What and Trixie?
Bert and Trixie Visit the Vet.
Okay.
It'll be running at the Purple Rose Theater from June 27th through the end of August. So, come check that out. But
awesome.
Yeah, that's about it.
And check them out on Suits LA, which is airing now. Have they all aired yet?
They have not all aired. There's a few more. In fact, I still have one more to shoot to finish the order. And then Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage too. I got a couple more of those coming up.
Oh, okay. So I will definitely be seeing that because of my son. And because of me, because I know you. Thank you, Matt, for all your time. It's great to see you. Hang around for a second.
Okay, we'll
play our little goodbye theme song.
Right on. And
I gotta add here goes. Thank you, Matt.
My pleasure.
Like, share, and do all those fun things.